All right, guys, we are live now with another episode of In Response To,
Yep.
and this is episode 7. We had some issues trying to get it up and running.
No.
No,
This
I mean,
is
it's perfect.
Definitely the first recording.
First recording, no issues ever. Twitch is
Yeah.
great. They didn't have any issues today.
Yeah. I will corroborate your story.
So, just getting into it, guys, we are jumping into episode 7 of In Response To, our monthly podcast that we do dedicated to the modern meta and, all that
Best format ever.
Best format.
Yeah.
Not degenerative at all right now.
Eldrazi?
What?
Drowsy?
Eldrazi? I've never heard
Are
of
you
this
there?
deck. Our new modern overlords, which we'll talk all about them soon enough, guys. But in case you have not seen us, because it's been about a month or so, it seems to fluctuate when we do it. March or February,
Yeah.
we're doing it the end of the month. I think we did the end of the month, January too.
I think so too. Maybe we're finding a rhythm here. It's just gonna be end of every month.
Yeah. All right. I like that.
Alright.
So last month, if you guys missed it, didn't see the VOD, it got to the point where we had a banning. 2 decks pretty much got banned in Modern right before the Pro Tour. We had Splinter Twin and Amulet Bloom pretty much be null and void. They banned Twin and they banned Summer Bloom. So we got 2 decks basically banned out with like some of the stronger decks in Modern. And we had at least one event leading up to the Pro Tour where people were trying to figure out what the meta is going to look like, how things are going to be looking. Then we had the Pro Tour, a couple events since then. And then there's some GPs and stuff like that coming up that we wanted to talk about. So at least leading into the Pro Tour, there was an event that took place in Columbus. It was the classic, so like their Sunday event for Star City.
Right.
And the decks that you got to see that were doing well were a lot of the decks that I think we talked about that would be doing well. I mean, the only maybe exception to that, like...
These are actually all decks that we talked about, except for Scape Shift.
Yeah, I was like, that's the only one that I...
Oh, and Jund. Okay, a Jund. So,
okay.
6 of the top 8 decks are all decks we pegged to be very good in this new meta.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's Infect, Burn, Affinity are all linear aggro decks, essentially. Infect's kind of more of a combo deck, but it's like very, they know what they want to do, they go into a game, and they just do it.
Yes.
These are good at punishing decks like Tron, which is kind of what we thought would be the big bad. And in this tournament, it kind of was. There were two copies in the top 8. So we got it right a little.
We got it right leading into the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
And then once the Pro Tour happened, we were completely wrong. But yeah, like what we talked about, because we're like, all right, I think neither of us were expecting the results of the Pro Tour.
No, I didn't see that one coming.
No.
I did not see the Eldrazi deck being that.
No, and so the Eldrazi deck had been around a little bit. I think we did talk about it last.
Yeah,
episode.
we talked about it, and I think we just said, maybe this is a thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. It's a deck. It's like, oh, cool. It's another fun deck that you could play, more creature-based, and look, it's got all this like graveyard interactions and processing and stuff like that. Cool.
Eldrazi Temple's $5 now. Crazy. Wow. It went past that actually a little bit.
What's it up to now, actually?
I don't know. I know they're buying them for $5 on Face to Face, so probably like a lot. I'll check.
All right, a temple is $6.50.
All right.
If you want a foil, it's like $15. So.
I actually traded for a foil Eldrazi Temple. I traded a Shatterstorm for it.
Wow.
And not like the new black border one, the old one that's worth like
even better.
50 cents.
Even better.
We didn't realize, and 2 days later it spiked like real hard.
Victory.
That was a pretty good trade for me.
So yeah, with our first event, pretty straightforward leading into it. Nothing that like exciting leading into the Pro Tour. And Pro Tour comes around. There was a few teams in particular that had, like, Pro Tour is a really big deal where a lot of teams keep things very close to the chest and, you know, don't do much discussion about what's going on and, you know, what decks they're going to play. Now, there was a cool story that I had heard from the Affinity players. A couple of the Affinity players from top teams all met together just to discuss the most optimal way to be playing Affinity.
Oh, cool.
And they're like, we promise we're not going to talk about any other decks that our team is playing. We're just going to go and basically have an Affinity boot camp, essentially. And they, like, I think most of the top decks were pretty much the same list, maybe one or two sideboard cards different, but they basically said this is the most optimal way to be playing Affinity currently, and this is, you know, and have that discussions with the players. So I thought that was pretty cool. That, you know, Affinity players decided to do that. There was essentially 3 different Eldrazi decks that came to the tournament.
Right.
Channel Fireball opted for the colorless version.
Yeah.
Which it was designed to just hose the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be everyone other than the Eldrazi Mirror.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they realized that everyone figured this out. Like, it's not the most obvious deck, so I think it's kind of reasonable to think maybe they just didn't think there would be that much Eldrazi there. It's like, well, we'll just try to beat everyone else. Like, we'll beat the burn decks, we'll beat the infect decks.
Yeah.
And then the Eldrazi decks, well, we'll see what happens. And they beat all the infect and burn.
They did. And a big part of that is because they have 4 Chalice of the Void's main board. They're running Simian Spirit Guides so they can cheat them out. It was gross. Like,
yeah,
this version of the list is gross. I mean, it runs 3 Gut Shot in the sideboard too. Like, it's got 2 Ratchet Bomb main board, usually a Ratchet Bomb in the sideboard. It's gross.
It's really interesting, actually. Like, the Ratchet Bombs, I think, are generally for the mirror, so maybe they did kind of see this coming and just thought that their version was best in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, they also like have the Oblivion Sowers and stuff like that, which help you get in the mirror and everything.
They're great in the mirror.
So it's like this is the list that all Channel Fireball was running, and you could see that it did very well because we had some players place quite highly. They made top 8 with it and everything.
Yeah. There's 3 colorless Eldrazi decks all in the top 8.
Yes.
So almost half the top 8 was colorless Eldrazi. That one specific type of Eldrazi, and I believe they were all on the same team.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they all made their decks together. Like they're just exactly the same.
Well, it's like we had Shuhei, LSV, and Ivan were the 3 colorless players.
Yeah. Yeah, their decks are all actually just absolutely identical.
Yeah.
So yeah, they clearly work together. You don't generally come to the same 75 working apart. So putting 3 people in the top 8
it's huge.
They broke it. Like they just did it. They just played what is probably the best deck. I think maybe the other Eldrazi decks are better, but just the Eldrazi deck in general, putting 4 Ivug and 4 Eldrazi Temple in your deck and then casting cards with them. Yeah. It's just the best thing to be doing at the Pro Tour.
Yep. It's true. So there was there was 2 other Eldrazi lists, but really it was the colorless and the blue-red Eldrazi were the two
big ones.
Big ones. Yeah. And so the difference between this is it ran the Drowner of Hopes, the Vile Aggregate there, which is pretty cool. It's got the trample and okay, so this one ran the Ruination Guide here, making your colorless guys stronger. The Sky Spawners.
Who's this? I think he just had a bunch of Battle for Zendikar draft. He just had some random cards from Battle. I'm like, maybe these work.
Let's see how this works. I mean,
Sky Spawner's a good card, right?
Sky Spawner's a great card. Eldrazi Obliviator there is awesome. It's 3/1.
Good.
Steal a creature. So until the end of turn, this deck was pretty cool.
The one that gets me is Vile Aggregate, because it just does not look like a card that should be in any way playable in Modern.
Yeah, like it's 3 mana for an X5, where its power is equal to the number of colorless creatures you control, and it does ingest damage. It does ingest. So when you deal damage to an opponent, that player exiles the top card of his or her library.
entirely irrelevant.
I mean, you have a lot of this deck makes a lot of Scions, so I can see why they felt like he would be a good guy to put in there. Plus, 5 toughness is pretty relevant for the rest of the meta.
Yeah, 5 toughness is a lot.
I mean, you play against an Eldrazi deck, that thing's going to die, but every other deck, it's going to be like, well, I can't get through this right now.
You can't gut shot it. That's for sure.
You can't gut shot it. Yeah.
You can dismember it, which was the removal of choice for these Eldrazi decks.
Yes.
You might think that it's a black card, but dismember is actually a
colorless card. That's all it is.
It says for 1 mana, target creature dies. It's 4 life. Mm-hmm. That's how this card works.
Yep.
Phyrexian mana, yay! The worst. Why was this ever printed?
Oh, so good, so good.
Kind of crazy. Yeah, I love that this deck has like Ruination Guide, Vile Aggregate, Sky Spawner, and like Endless One looks like a bad card too.
Well, Endless One is something that's run in every Eldrazi deck.
Yeah.
And initially, you think it does seem like a bad card, but then when you're like, all right, turn 1, here's an Endless One for 2.
Yeah.
Or, turn 2, here's an Endless One for 4, or
those turns that they get to go Endless One, Mimic, go.
Yeah.
On turn 1, it's just insane. Yeah. Like Ivugan makes so much mana in this deck. And this deck is also playing 4 Scalding Tarns.
Yes.
So you have to have a Pro Tour top 8 with Scalding Tarns, or it's just not a Pro Tour top 8. So good job. Blue Red Eldrazi, you saved us.
Yeah, this was also the list that was running the Gemstone Caverns.
Right, that's so cool. I love Gemstone Cavern. I don't know why people don't do this more. Like, just like random Gemstone Cavern. I think it's really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who doesn't know, essentially Gemstone Cavern lets you be on the play when you're on the draw. So if it's in your opening hand and you're not playing first, you can just begin the game with it in play with a luck counter on it. And if it has a luck counter on it, you can make any kind of mana you want. And to put this into play, you have to exile a card from your hand. So it's card disadvantage. You're 2-for-1ing yourself, but your opponent's not drawing, and then you do draw. So you're actually just essentially you were on the play.
Yeah, essentially. And then,
that's really.
You're just like, okay, cool. Here's my second land. Sup?
Yeah. Especially, is this deck running Spirit Guides? This deck's not running any Spirit Guides.
Yeah, not this one.
No, not the blue-red one. The colorless one is running Spirit Guides for their, what do you call them? Chalice of the Void, and just like playing Reality Smasher on turn 3 or whatever. Actually, you can do it on turn 2. That's just so wrong. So wrong. Yeah, I really like the blue-red deck more. I think it's cooler.
Yeah, it definitely when we saw the tournament, this deck did better versus the colorless version.
It was better in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sweet that they get to play 3 Stubborn Denials in their sideboard.
Yeah. Just
like it's so easy to get the Ferocious turned on. Mm-hmm. And the games are over so quick, even if it's just Force Spike on something. Yeah, it's usually going to be good enough.
I also liked the Tomb of the Spirit Dragon that some people were running in theirs.
Oh, cool.
So you gain life for each colorless creature.
Yeah.
And you have all colorless creatures, so you're going to be gaining life. Especially if it gets locked up in the mirror where you both are sitting here and like, all right, I've got 4 creatures, you got 4 creatures, we can't do anything right now. Oh, I'm just going to activate Tomb. And
4 turn.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
So the other decks besides the Eldrazi's... Oh, actually, we have one more Eldrazi to discuss, and that's Frank's.
Yeah, Frank's list. Which he made by himself.
He did. He was not on a team, guys.
No.
He was sitting there grinding away.
Yeah, he went on Magic Online. This is what he came up with.
He did the processor version. So it's got the Drowners like the red-blue version, but some of the difference here is it's kind of a mix of the old school Eldrazi that we saw, where that was like the mono black processing version with like Wasteland Stranglers, relics, or the claws in there. But he's added in the
Scrabbling Claws.
Yeah, Drowner of Hope and World Breaker as his kind of additional power into his deck. So he doesn't have any removal in the main board. Basically, he's just going to say, I'm going to be able to throw down these huge creatures and use Drowner of Hope to tap down your team. Or I could be able to use like World Breaker and, just exile certain things and, do some crazy stuff, kill you with Reality Smashers. Blight Herder's great because You get a bunch of scions again. So it's like just makes a whole bunch of scions. It's really what he's trying to do with this version of the deck.
Yeah, like you said, this is a lot closer to the older version, which I do think the newer version is better, but it's still fun to see the old ways. I like Relic of Progenitus particularly.
Yes.
I think one of the ways you can lose with this deck to a non-Eldrazi deck is something like a black-green deck, Thoughtseize into Tarmogoyf, and this just helps you not die to that.
Yeah.
I do like that a lot. Versus like Burn or Infect or whatever, you don't really have to worry about those matchups too much, just because like it looks like they're just really good for you. Especially Burn. I think Burn just cannot beat Eldrazi. So you kind of want to shore up where you can lose, and also just Relic is mostly free to play. Just cycles at worst. So it was pretty sweet. I think the main draw here over the normal one is something like you get to play World Breaker, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I really like World Breaker. I think you should have more. And if you are making all these scions and stuff, like you're just going to be able to place more World Breakers anyway. So
Right.
I would like more of those, but this is a list he came up with on his own, like pre-Pro Tour. So maybe he boards into more or changes his deck to have more.
Yeah, he said he was doing a lot of testing and working with Melissa as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would assume so.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool that somebody that kind of didn't have a team was doing all this practice by himself.
Yeah.
Doing the streaming. First Pro Tour made top 8.
Especially since like he had to defer, right? Like his original Pro Tour invite, he qualified, and then Melissa, who I don't know if they're married or what, she went to work in R&D, and they're like, well, I guess you can't play in the Pro Tour now. So he thought he just wasn't gonna get to play. Her stay at R&D stopped, and they're like, all right, you can come play now. So they gave him a special invite to come play, which I think is really great. Like I was very happy for him when he qualified, just because he's a likable person. Like if you watch the commentary he does, he's just good. Yeah, it's just fun. It looks like he's a fun guy to hang out with. So I was pretty happy, and to see him top 8 without a team, like just the deck that he made is really cool.
Yeah.
So I like this story a lot.
So the other decks that made our top 8 were
Affinity,
guys.
Affinity.
Yeah.
So we kind of called it.
I mean, it needed something quick that could try to keep up with the Eldrazi deck, and if you watch any of the top 8 coverage, there were some matches where they're like, all right, here's the Chalice, have fun dealing with this. And that, really hurt to watch. But like the Affinity players tried, and they put up some good fights there to make it work. But one of the things that you can notice between these lists is the fact that they're all running Master of Ethereum, and all running for these lists. So there is some difference between who's running Thoughtcast main board and who's not. So like Pascal's list was running Stubborn Nile instead in his main, and he had all of his Thoughtcasts in the sideboard, while Patrick's list ran the Thoughtcast main, and he still had some in the sideboard there. So,
man, I like Thoughtcast. I was talking to you earlier, right before the show, about how I've been playing Pauper.
Yeah.
And there's an Affinity deck in Pauper that just runs 4 main deck because you get to run the artifact lands.
Oh yeah.
Seed of Cylon and stuff are not banned. And Thoughtcast is just such a nightmare because it's always 1 mana to draw 2.
Yeah.
Which is an insane rate. Like, it's not Ancestral, but it's close.
Right.
It's 1 card off. I think 1 mana Divination would be a modern staple if it were easier to play. So I just always want to run Thoughtcast. Like, is it crazy that I just see 2 and I'm like, why isn't it 4? Why don't I just draw more cards?
I've seen a couple of lists running at least 3 right now.
Yeah. I think I'm wrong, but it just like it.
But it feels good to be able to run it. I mean, another thing to note too is, they don't have the Galv Blast in these lists.
Yeah, that's so interesting because that was one of the cards I really liked in Affinity.
I know a lot of people still like them and run them in their main board and stuff, but it could also be a fact that maybe these players knew of the fact that there was going to be Eldrazi running around and go,
that much.
I think everyone is not going to kill anything that I wanted to, or 4 damage is not going to be killing what I needed to.
I think everyone knew Eldrazi was a deck. Like it was pretty obvious that it was strong. I think we just didn't know how strong.
Yeah.
So the question is how far did you go? And we see both these decks have one gut shot, and gut shot is a card that's actually only good versus Eldrazi.
No, it's good against.
What else is it good versus? Like Infect?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. It was mainly for Eldrazi.
But sorry.
Because you need to do something early enough to not die to their like triple.
Their mimics.
Yeah, triple mimic draws when they just put them all in play, and gut shot was like one of the only good ways to do it. So clearly they knew about the deck coming in and wanted to have some kind of sideboard slots for it.
Yeah.
I just think they could have had more. Like, if it's this big of a deal, like, it's just kind of the best deck. And if you called it to be the best deck, I think more gut shots would have been good.
Yeah.
Or something similar. I do like the Gerper Aether Grid. Specifically, I guess I saw this in a Grand Prix. It combined with Ensnaring Bridge.
Oh,
so you just can't get attacked, and then you pick
I was like the Lantern Control decks run it.
Okay, cool, yeah.
In the main board, they've got that along with all their artifacts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I hate this card as an Infect player because...
Oh, yeah, I bet.
It's the worst.
It's the actual worst. It doesn't even trigger Wild Defiance.
It doesn't. That's the problem.
Yeah. Like, I got Wild Defiance in place. You can't Lightning Bolt my guys, but you can just tap 2 of yours to ping it. That's so rude. I think LSV was the one who said this, and I completely agree with him. One of the reasons to play that deck, the Lantern Control deck, is I think it just has a great matchup for Eldrazi.
And Sam Black played it at the Pro Tour, and he's been playing it at the modern circuit for Star City and stuff like that recently.
Yeah.
And he's been really enjoying it. So
that was a deck from my experience I thought was just bad. Originally, I don't think it's very good because I feel like if you know the cards that are important and you deal with them appropriately,
you have to be a really good player to play Lantern Control.
That's also true.
Because you have to know the cards that you want your opponent to be able to have. You have to be able to kind of understand the matchups really, really well. But you also have to be able to play quick enough because a lot of times you're going to be going to time.
Right, because the deck's so slow.
The deck is really slow, so you've got to be able to make certain plays and see certain lines quicker than other people sometimes. And it's a good deck. I mean, Sam Black's been placing very highly. He was one of our players that made top 16 or top 32, I think, with it at the Pro Tour.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's really good right now. I didn't like it before, but I think it's it's definitely just an option.
Yeah.
If you look at it, like half your matchups are going to be Eldrazi. Like it's close to that. So
well, at least day 2 it is. Day 1 you might have some more variety, and that's what a lot of people like. There's a big outcry right now, and a lot of the professional players have been complaining on Twitter and like, I don't even want to go to the next GP for Modern because there's so much Eldrazi and it's not fun and this and that. And then like some other players are coming back and saying, well, I just played at this Open and I faced it once day 1.
Yeah.
But then again, you look at like day 2 metas where like there's 64 players make day 2 and 31 of the decks are Eldrazi and 20 out of the top 32 are Eldrazi. It's like, okay, you might have a variety for day 1, but then when it gets to day 2, you're guaranteed playing Eldrazi a bunch.
Yeah, it's an unhealthy format, which is kind of sad. Like that about it isn't good. So I think we'll probably see something, whether that's like a metagame shift or a ban. Right. I don't know. I think it's probably a ban. I guess we'll talk about that later. But I think like there's decks that can beat this, like that Blue Moon deck. Very close to top 8. I guess you might as well just look at that now.
Yeah, so let's pop over to our other list.
It's actually something that was from, I think, the second Modern Pro Tour. This is the one that Sean McLaren won. I'll try to find it here. But it's Blue Moon, and the idea here is, it's a Snapcaster deck. So there's 4 Blood Moons main deck. I think the creatures that he was running were 4 Snapcasters and 2 Pian Kirnalars. And then other than that, his creatures were actually just batter skulls. So really, really in on that plan of kind of controlling the early game and then winning with a big threat.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to land a Blood Moon early. I think that's just that's thing number one.
Yes.
Turn one you want to fetch for your island and then cast your Snare Visions. I can't actually find it. It was the deck that was 9.
Let me look, because could be. All right, there's a Mardu list, Abzan Company. Okay, I found it. It's in the 21 through 33 or 23 match points.
Okay, cool.
Let me pull it up here. It was also the list that if you guys played the Gauntlet, it was the same list that was for the Pro Tour Gauntlet, which was a lot of fun. Did you play any of that?
I didn't actually play any of it. I wanted to, but I just never really had a good chance to do it.
Oh, I played so much of it.
Yeah.
there was one deck on there that I thought was just horrible, but the rest of them I thought were fun and good to play.
Yeah.
But so here's basically the Blue Moon list, and a couple of players have been trying this since the Eldrazi have come around. But like you said, it's got the snaps, P and Cure in there.
Yeah.
Burst Lightning's pretty cool because you could be able to deal 4 damage to it if you kick. So if you draw it late game, it can do some work, or just shocking somebody off, kills off a lot of stuff for just 2 damage.
It's definitely not as good as Lightning Bolt, but when you want to play 7 Lightning Bolts, I think this is probably the next best choice.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be better.
Really, it's like the deck is a Dirtle deck until you get a Battle Skull.
Right.
And that's kind of how you win. Sometimes you can just win from Snapcaster Beats or Pia and using the Thopter tokens and just boltings and doing things like that. But Battle Skull really is the list. And I've got this deck 3 times on the Gauntlet, and one time I switched it up. I don't remember what card I switched up, but I did some adjusting and brought in Click in the main board instead of keeping it. I think I switched to Pia for a Click. What I did. And I like doing that better. Just having a 3/1 flyer and swinging in is pretty good. I can strip people's hands. And, so I liked having that as an extra way to help win with the deck. But it's a fun deck.
It's a really cool deck. I think if you want to play a Snapcaster deck, this is kind of just where you have to be right now. Mm-hmm. Which kind of sucks because then you need 4 Blood Moons, which are hella expensive. Yeah. Man, I guess you also need Tarns and stuff like that, but I'm assuming you already have that if you were playing Splinter Twin or something.
Yeah.
I really like this deck, and I like the idea of playing Vendilion Click main. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought some other win con would be good. I don't know what it is. It's not a Delver deck.
When I had the list, the other thing you could bring in is the Keranos.
Okay, cool. Just
a one of. Some people have done it main, some have had it sideboard and bring it in. It's slow, but the deck itself is a slow deck.
Yeah, exactly. You're really looking to just control. Right. This is a control deck. It's got Blood Moon, which is essentially just a shutdown card for certain decks. Mm-hmm. So it's technically Blue Moon. The original Blue Moon deck, I think, was more tempo based, but this one's just a straight up control deck. Mm-hmm. A bunch of instants. Almost all of them are removal or counter spells. Yeah. Actually, all of them are. And then very few threats. So, you just want to own the game. You want to say what people are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and then eventually kill them with the Batter Skull or the P and Cure Noir. I do like another threat though. I think Vendilion Click is a really good one. Mm-hmm. I was kind of wondering why he didn't have one main. It just seems so obvious, just 1 click main.
Yeah, but I guess because you sometimes you just need blockers.
Sure.
And just a little bit extra delay, so maybe that's why he just decided to go for the 3 over the 2 and 1.
Yeah.
But maybe looking back, he might make that change. But because I played it and I liked having the 2 and 1 split and just having the extra Pira in the sideboard, and then if I really need more guys to go up the board, then I'll bring in and switch it up. So
especially when P and Kern are legendary as well. Mm-hmm. So 3 is kind of the max that you would want. I like 2 for legendaries. I really don't want to have to legend rule myself, or essentially legend rule myself by having one in play and then having a dead card in my hand. Yeah. It is nice that there are 2/2, so if you do flood out on them, they're pretty likely to die.
Right.
But it's still not like a great feeling.
Mm-hmm. So that was another cool deck. That was through the top list. There's some zoo list in there, some burn. Oh, so that brings up the other zoo list. Suicide Zoo.
Okay, you mean the Death Shadow deck?
Yeah.
This is actually like a combo deck now. Like looking at it, what they did is they just threw the Become Immense Teamer Battle Rage combo in their deck.
Yeah, like
it's pretty crazy. I think it's cool.
I mean, so it's basically very similar to the zoo list. Like here, it's got some Goyfs in there. It's got Nicoddles, Swift Spears, Goblin Guides. But you also are running this Death Shadow, which is a 1 black for a 13/13. But he gets -X, where X is your life total. So you're running the Street Race in there, so you can cycle them by paying life. You can Gataxian Probe by paying life. You can Thoughtseize by paying life. You've got Mutagenics to pay life. I don't think it runs any basics. No, so it's all fetch and shocks.
Yeah.
So you can bolt yourself if need be. If you, like there's, it's a definitely unique deck, and I didn't get to play with this deck or against it during the gauntlet, so I'm not sure how well it is, but it's clearly something that people placed high if they got 21 or 23 match points for the Pro Tour with it. So
yeah, that's a good result. Like 7 match wins out of how many do you get? It's 4 in each day, right?
I think so.
So they went 7-1 in Modern. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that result. That's definitely good enough to get a top 8, based on your draft. So this is a good deck. I'm a little sad because I traded a set of Death Shadows for like $4 each, and now they're way more than that.
Ooh.
But I guess that's how it goes.
That does happen.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I just really like that this deck it's kind of offbeat compared to what you would think of with Magic. Like all fetch shock base. Like there's a single basic in the deck, so they don't even care. Like you can pat them. Path to Exile is just better than Swords to Plowshares versus deck.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy. So, but yeah, they just really want to do that life to themselves, and even just running. This is something I've thought of for burn before, but just running 4 Gataxian Probes. They don't have blue mana. It's always pay to draw a card, look at your hand, and they just get to run less cards in their deck essentially. Same as Street Race, like they get to run a 52 card deck.
Yeah.
Which is why they can play 17 lands. Also, Mishra's Bauble is free.
Yeah. Mishra's Bauble's in there is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something that kind of confused me. Why do you think Mishra's Bauble's in this deck? Is it just run those cards like they want a 48 card deck or what?
Yeah, I get like you have the basically cycling ability. It also triggers prowess on your Swift Spears.
Sure.
And so that's just like a little extra thing you can do is like, all right, here's my Mishra's Bauble, here's my Gataxian Probe. That's 2 triggers for my Swift Spear. I got a Mutagenic off this draw. Boom, Mutagenic. I'll pay 2 more, another trigger, and then like Teamer Battle Rage and
just get them.
Yeah, like you could do some stuff with it.
Sometimes you just get people. Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, so this is a cool deck. I would definitely, if I had all these cards, which I actually just like have everything except those Death Shadows now. But if I had all these cards, I would probably play it. Wow, yeah. Why did I trade those? I would be 2 Goblin Guides short. That's it. Oh. Whoops.
Whoops. So another thing, fringe-wise, there was an ad nauseam player that was running Laboratory Maniac main board.
Yeah. That's fun. Laboratory Maniac and 4 Spirit Guides is your base.
Elves was up there. There was a Delver list here and there. Some Chord list. There was a Through the Breach Scapeshift list.
Whoa, Grixis Delver? Yeah. He actually went 7 matches with this? That's okay, I want to look at this deck now. All right. That's crazy. So I just did not expect a Delver deck to be good enough right now, but
I don't think it
there
is.
You just got lucky.
I think a part of it might have that he got lucky, and maybe he was facing down some of the Death Shadow lists. Maybe he's facing down some of the Infect lists. Like,
took a draw turn or first round and just got weird matchups.
It could be. Like, I just don't feel that the list is the deck is as strong as it was last meta.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I played Bug Delver at my last FNM, got crushed by Eldrazi, so it didn't work. Yeah. I just don't think Delver's where you want to be right now. Trying to, land this threat and then interact with your Eldrazi opponents just is not a winning battle.
Right, and a lot of times your Delver is not going to flip. Like,
yeah,
we don't have the easy ways to make sure our Delver flips like Legacy does.
Yeah. Yeah, so many of those cantrips just aren't here. So you're kind of relying on Serum Visions, which is a fine card, but that means the earliest you can do, assure a flip, if you assume there's instant sorcery within your top 2, is turn 3. Because you have to play your Delver turn 1, turn 2 you cast Gitaxian Probe, turn 3 you flip your Delver. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
For flipping with Serum Visions, you could just blind flip.
Right, and that can happen.
Yeah. It's less than 50%. Like, this is a 28 instant / sorcery deck, so it's not even like you're gonna do it all the time. In Legacy, you run less lands. I think they run like 17 lands in Legacy, somewhere around there, 17 or 18. So I guess the same amount.
Yeah.
But you also get to run just like a bunch of cantrips if you want. So it's you get to stack and they run less creatures as well, I think. So. I don't know. This is a cool deck, though. Like, this is something to try post-ban, probably.
Yeah.
Like, I think decks like this are cool, like the tempo aggro deck, or tempo control. You just get your threat down and then, mana leak all their plays, or, command their guys. So, it's a cool deck.
He's running 2 Blood Moons in his sideboard as well.
Oh, yeah. I think that's kind of necessary, right? Like, it's probably the only way to beat Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, turn 1 Delver on the play can still beat, like, any deck in Magic ever.
Yeah.
It's the same, like, Thoughtseize and Tarmogoyf can beat any deck in Magic ever. If it's, a good Thoughtseize and then Tarmogoyf lives, there's definitely issues with this plan. A, you have to have it.
Yes, yeah.
B, it has to live, so it can be tough, but, turn 1 Delver, flipping it, and then just, like, remand and mana leak all their spells, that's still a good plan.
Yeah.
You gotta get there, but if you do, all power to you.
All right. So looking through the rest of the stuff, there was like a Mardu mid-range list that's like
there's like these Angel Core decks.
Right.
Just they're like pod.
Yeah.
Pod. They're actually just pod decks without pod.
All right. So there was a couple of the Grizzlebrand decks or the Goryo's Vengeance list.
Yeah, Goryo's Vengeance Reanimator.
Yeah, so the list that I think is the one that you should be playing is the one that, if for whatever reason you want to play this list, is really the one that's running green. And for World Spine Worm and to be able to use your Nourishing Shoal. So you can just gain a bunch of life and still be in it. Because there's going to be times where you're going to sit here and go, well, I wish I could cast Grizzlebrand, but you're an aggro deck and I just need a little bit, 1 extra turn or something. This helps you out. There was a list that was there that was not running it and was running blue instead for, some extra draws and stuff, and it ran Jace, which I've seen versions that are kind of 4-color in that regard.
Right.
But I think if you want to run Jace, that's a great, because the loot is cool. You got to flip them, you got to cast some of your spells again. But you still need to be running Nourishing Shoal and World Spine Worm. I think it's a must for this deck.
I do like the Nourishing Shoal World Spine. Remember, I saw this deck at Grand Prix Vancouver, like 2 years ago now.
Oh my
or
gosh.
No, I guess it was like a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
A year and a bit. I think that this is like before it became well known. And the guy pulled out his deck list and showed it to me, and it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. This is like post crushing me super one-sided. It's just an awful matchup for John, which is what I was playing, obviously.
Obviously.
It felt really bad. And then he pulls out this list. This is just so cool. It's very similar to this. It's Night's Whisper, Faithless Looting, excuse me. to draw. There was no blue in the deck,
Mm-hmm.
so no Serum Visions or anything like that. But
yeah,
is pretty much the version that everyone played. I can't remember exactly what they changed. I think it was something like adding Spirit Guides was part of what changed the deck. And
yeah.
So, he had it pretty close. So I saw this. I was prepared when we started seeing it, but I think, man, I like the blue. That's my point here.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to say that, and I just didn't know how. I like the blue.
I was like, the Serum's great. Having Izzet Charm's great.
Yeah.
And
I like Izzet Charm a lot. I think this deck's or the card's just so versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the modes are good for you.
Yeah.
Kill your Snapcaster or something. Mm-hmm. Counter a thing and loot. Yeah. All right. Let's do it, man. Draw 2 Pitch is really good when you don't really care about your hand size.
Yeah.
Which this deck doesn't.
No, it doesn't. All right, so like those are a couple of the list. Again, there was a lot of
there's like some
and stuff.
There's some Jund and Absent around too, but not very much.
Right.
It's mostly Eldrazi.
Right, and that was the big thing that blew up Modern. After that, we had a change.
Yeah, I would say that's a good word for it.
Yeah, so we had at least one Star City event since then for Modern, and actually this is the one I want. Our top 8 did have some Eldrazi. It wasn't as like here's 6 out of our top 8 are Eldrazi like the Pro Tour.
Yeah, only half the top 8 was Eldrazi this time.
Just 4 out of the 8.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 affinities in there, a Kiki Chord because Jeff is playing, and a Merfolk. And Merfolk has been something people have been trying to play to deal with Eldrazi, and some of them were having some success with it, like Spreading Seas, Seas Claim.
Yeah,
shuts you off your lands. You've got a lot of them are also running white again. Some people have tried the mono blue list. Some are running the white for Path and. Just ways to help interact with the Eldrazi Menace essentially, because that is now they're the deck in Modern.
It's the deck to beat.
People are essentially saying, okay, what can I do to beat it? And in ways, some fringe decks are going to be better now.
Right, if they're like land destruction or something, just randomly is good.
Like there's some decks out there, like Lantern Control has never been like a top tier. Yes, it's run at GP, it's done well at events, but it's never something that you're like, I'm going to be seeing Lantern Control
all day,
the time. Yeah, no, but now it is a better deck.
It's a reasonable deck, Like I can't fault someone for playing it right now. Mm-mm. It's just a good choice for Steel Eldrazi, and it won a GP before Eldrazi, so clearly it has good matchups elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is Eldrazi has shifted too in the decks. As you can see, like the colorless list is not really there anymore. People have been trying the
blue, white,
red, green, but really it's been determined that blue white is the color list that you want to run.
Yeah.
You get Path to Exile, which is a great card in every matchup pretty much. But the big thing is you're running like the Sky Spawners in there, the Drowner of Hopes, these kind of guys.
Yeah.
Thought Knots, Reality Smashers, the normal stuff, but it also has got Displacers, which is 3 mana for a 3/3, and you can pay 3 mana and exile target creature returns to the battlefield tapped under its owner control.
I think you meant white for a 3/3.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What were you thinking?
I don't know. It's but basically it interacts with the Sky Spawners and the Drowners of Hope. Here, let me get more Mimics out. It also lets you potentially strip your opponent's hand a second time with Thought Knot Seer, because you can sit there and say, okay, Thought Knot leaves the battlefield, draw a card, he's going to enter the battlefield, now I got to look at your hand and steal something again.
Yeah.
It also interacts in the mirror matchup because you can blink out their endless ones and then they come back as 0/0s.
That is so brutal. Just so strong. I think, this card's just really cool. It's the only white card other than Path to Exile that I see. Oh, there's Red Rest in Peace and Stony Silence and Worship in the sideboard. Right, this is the crazy part.
Yeah, so Worship is the new anti-Eldrazi sideboard.
Yeah. So, because Eldrazi can't really kill all the creatures, they can kill a couple creatures, but this deck has 7 removal spells total. So, not going to be able to kill everything. If you play Worship, which is a 4-mana enchantment, it's 3 and a white. If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So you can't die if you have a creature out. And, like we said, we look at the creature count, 28. And the removal spell count 7.
Yeah,
there's probably going to be creatures in play. Like even just the Scion works.
Yeah.
So Worship is actually just you cannot kill me in this matchup.
Yeah.
And we saw a really crazy game where one player had Worship and the board stalled, and each player had a Displacer out. So they were just flickering their Sky Spawners and Drowners, and I think they got to like 130 some Scions on one side.
Oh, yep, I do remember seeing that on Reddit.
Yeah, this is a pretty ridiculous game. I would definitely advise you to go watch just the game. I mean, you can watch the whole match if you want. It's a fun match. It showcased the Eldrazi matchup where you play lands that make 2 mana. But this one match was just really insane, and this is what Worship is gonna do, I guess.
Yeah, it's jumped up to like $13 now. Like, really, the only list and decks that used to run it before Eldrazi was like black-white tokens.
But they ran it.
So some of them did in the sideboard to help against Tron, or not Tron, against Twin.
Okay. Right, because they don't kill all your guys. Yeah, that makes sense.
That was the only other time that I've ever seen people run Worship leading into now Eldrazi Modern.
Well, it's a good thing it was printed in Urza's Saga 9th edition, 8th edition, 7th edition.
It's been around. There's a lot of copies.
Yeah, it's been around. So at least it's got enough printing so that it's not just like insanely expensive. Hey, it's an arcade postcard. There you
go. Another interesting fact to this deck and the sideboard is Vesuva.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. So sweet.
Which, again, is like a mirror matchup card.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is.
You sit there and you go, oh, I don't have any temples, but you do? Thank you for the Eldrazi Temple. Or I don't have an eye right now, and you do? Cool, thank you for that.
It's really nice when you get to copy the eye, because it just makes the mana that turn anyway. Like, eye doesn't tap for mana, unless you have Urborg out, in which case, come on, man. Yeah, Stop
cheating.
Stop that. You can't tap that card. Like, it makes 3 mana now? You know how many lands are that make 3 mana? None. This is too good. Like, 2 is already too much.
So this is probably the list that you're going to be seeing a lot more if you go to events.
Yeah.
This seems to be where everyone's kind of in agreement. This is kind of where you want to be. Some of the colorless players still like that because they, it's positioned well versus the rest of the field.
Right.
Chalice is just rude, and sometimes you like to lock people out of the game.
I mean, you could just put Chalice in this deck if you want.
You could, but you don't get to play it, first turn for free.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to drop like Path or something. In which case, like, why are you playing white?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want Chalice in this deck. Never mind.
Never mind.
I'm just a fool.
So that is something to keep in mind, guys, when you're running around the tournament circuit. Is the blue-white Eldrazi is now the list to look at.
Yeah.
And keep an eye out, too, because Joe Lissette has updated his Tron list, and it's now green-white.
Oh, really?
For Path to Exile.
Huh. I still think Tron is just an unplayable deck versus Eldrazi.
I think so, too, but, like, he's playing well with it. I
guess he's just trying to beat everyone else and, like, pray that the Eldrazi deck doesn't do well.
Yeah. No. So just a little Tron isn't really that strong, and you're not going to see very much of it. There's going to be the players that are like, this is my deck, I'm always going to play this deck. So just, be aware of it.
Eldrazi Tron. Alright, we need to look at the 9th place deck.
Oh, yes. So basically, Eldrazi Tron, if you guys haven't seen this list, it says, you know what's great? Tron lands are great. You know what's great? Eldrazi's great. Let's combine the two and just be able to cast everything that I'd want to. So it's like the creature base is pretty straightforward here. Thought Knots, Reality Smashers, Oblivion Sowers, Endless Ones, Mimics. But its top end is Kozilek and Ulamog. So a little bit different than the other list because it can ramp into them because it runs all the Urza lands. Mines, power plants, towers, runs the eyes, runs the temples. It's gross. Expeditions, those kind of things. Also runs all his dust. Which I was like, oh, why do you run it main board? Because there's probably going to be a lot of Eldrazi. But I guess for the rest of the decks, it works out well. But you have to think that all his dust is also an Eldrazi card. So...
yeah, it totally is. It says Eldrazi right on it.
Yeah, so Temple taps for 2 to help pay for it. Eye reduces its cost by 2.
Oh, gross.
So it's a 3 mana exile. Well, each player sacks all colored permanents he or she controls.
3 mana, one-sided Wrath? Come on.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? How did this happen?
So that's a thing, guys. Yeah.
Gross. That is just crazy. This deck is just nuts. That's what I've learned. I don't think the Tron version is as good. Like, part of the reason Tron is playable is because you can find your lands with like Sylvan Scrying and stuff, and they're not doing that here. He's kind of just hoping to luck out, but he got 9, so clearly it got there.
Well, it's like really if you have a temple or an eye, and then you just have a Tron land, it's all right because you can start casting a bunch of your stuff, and then you're hoping to get some good land draws off Oblivion Tower because he's running a 4 of.
Right,
and he's really just going to gum up the board with Oblivion Solars and Endless Ones and stuff until he gets into a Thought Knot or Reality Smasher. And if he doesn't kill you with one of those, he's like, oh, okay, now I've got 10 mana. Here's Ulamog.
And he's still playing the Mimics and Endless Ones and stuff, so he can... that early game, he doesn't just entirely lose it to the other Eldrazi decks.
Right.
So maybe this is just a good mirror deck for the ability to cast Kozilek and Ulamog. If you get to cast Ulamog, that's really good.
I mean, Ulamog ends games, guys.
Yeah, just straight up. Ulamog, Kozilek does as well. If you just get to cast those in a mirror matchup, and they don't cast something of similar quality, which the other Eldrazi decks just can't cast that.
Yeah.
You're probably winning. 10-10 indestructible exile top 20 guy. How many attacks does it take one with an Ulamog? Really, like 2?
Yeah.
Maybe? Usually 1? So, yeah, I think that's pretty real. That's pretty sweet. I'm kind of coming around here on this deck.
Yeah.
I like it for the mirror.
Yeah, but you look through the top 16, and like I was talking about, this was the event where 20 out of the top 32 decks were Eldrazi lists of some variation. Most of them are the blue-red, blue-white. We had the Tron one there. Like there's some Affinity scattered in here, colorless version. But again, like we keep looking. Here's Bant Eldrazi, which some people were trying for the weekend. So the Bant list is similar. It's running like the Sky Spawners. It's running the Displacers, Drowners.
I think it's the blue-white deck, but they also have World Breaker.
Yeah.
I think that's the only green card.
That's pretty much. So...
But I mean, I already talked about it. I think World Breaker's a great card. I guess the other version of Eldrazi we had was green-red, so this one took 4th.
Oh, yes, yeah.
What I like about this one is it's actually just so favored against pretty much everything else in the format of an Eldrazi. Like, if you're expecting to not see too much Eldrazi day one, say you hit it like twice of your 9 matches, you can still beat it. Like, I think he beat an Eldrazi deck in the top 8. But if you play against, some creature deck, you get 4 Kozilek's returns, and the ability to flash them back with your 4 World Breakers.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I guess if you cast Endless One for 7, it can also do that. So there's 8 ways to flash it back. I just think that's so strong. Like, just getting to deal 5 to everything is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
I thought Kozilek's return was too good when I originally saw it. I thought it was too good for Standard. I think it's right for Modern, but you really need to be able to take advantage of it if you want to go full blown. Like I'm actually playing it in the Standard deck I'm playing is just Jund, obviously.
Of course.
Because those are the cards that I own. And I actually have that Blue-Red Prowess deck too. That's really sweet.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just playing these just for the front end. Like, that's how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that same thing in Modern. Kozilek's Return, we talked about it last time. It's just a good Modern card.
Yeah.
Without the flashback. And he gets to flash it back.
Oh, yeah. He could be able to cast it for the extra 5.
This is a scary deck. I think this is really good.
Yeah. I mean, it got 4, so maybe this is another list that you'll be seeing people run around with as well. So,
do you want to point out quickly the Infinity deck? That one is the one with the Garpray, Aether Grids, and the
and
sideboard.
Dispatch. It also has Dispatch.
What is it? Yeah, it does.
It does. So that
makes sense.
So this Austin here basically went in and says, okay, what is the deck that I'm trying to beat this weekend? Eldrazi. All right, what can I do to adjust my list a little bit to make it better against Eldrazi? Well, he shrunk down on the amount of masters he's running, only running 1 now. He's kind of filled up it with the Signal Pass, the Mem Knights in there, going for this kind of dump my hand sort of style to help him get that Metalcraft, so he could be able to dispatch, which he could either tap a creature or Path to Exile without them getting a land. Which, he runs 2 main board in there. Being able to pass something is pretty convenient. This is also the list with 4 of the Galv Blast in there. So just a little bit different. No Thought Cast in the main board. They're all in the sideboard for it. The sideboard is kind of very similar to what we were seeing, like Whip Flares, Thought Seize, Dismembers, Ancient Grudge, Aether Grid, Spellskite, Torpor Orb, Chalice we've seen, but the other big thing is Ensnaring Bridge. So again, still Eldrazi, this works out great. Plus, you can sit here and go, you know what, I've got 1 card in hand or no cards in hand. I'm going to swing in with my Signal Pest. I'm going to swing in with my Ornithopter, instant Quip, Cranial Plating.
Yeah.
And you're dead.
I think being able to instant Quip Cranial Plating is what kind of makes that ridiculous for a Eldrazi deck. If not, you'd be able to attack with your 1-power creatures on your turn because you draw your card and then you can attack. But just being able to swing with your 0/2 and then make it like a 9/2 at instant speed is just so good.
Yes.
It makes the matchup just insane. So you don't actually need both Aether Grid and Ensnaring Bridge to win. Right. You can just win with the Ensnaring Bridge. I do think Aether Grid's not great if you just have the Aether Grid.
Yeah.
Ping your Mimics is fine, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to kill a lot of stuff. But the combo there is very strong. And we actually saw it in 2 of the games for the finals. I think both sideboard games, this combo is assembled, and the Affinity or the Eldrazi deck just can't really beat it.
No, they can't really interact with it too well. Yeah. So.
And this is why the Lantern Control deck has such a good matchup. They just run 4 Ensnaring Bridge main deck.
They do. They say, sorry about your luck, but...
Yeah. Sorry, bro. I'm going to have to do this real quick, though. It's pretty good. I think that sideboard option was honestly why he won the tournament. And I expect to see that in pretty much every Affinity sideboard until something changes. April. Yeah, until whenever the next BNR is.
Yeah, sometime in April. I don't remember the exact date, but yes. Yeah, it's definitely worth it because you can get around it pretty easily with only having 1 card in your hand, swinging in for 1, and then, all this great stuff can happen with your Cranial Platings and things like that. So, cool to see the Affinity list do well. But again, we look at our top 8, and more or less, it's very similar to the Pro Tour with, all right, here's Eldrazi, here's Affinity. Jeff's just such a good player. He's
just a really good player.
A 62-card main deck.
Really?
Yes. Also, a lot of it was because of the Eldrazi decks. He's running Lone Missionaries in there now, and Big Game Hunter is the big one.
I wonder if he was just I don't know what to take out.
Well, it's he's got so many one-of creatures and so many ways to get creatures. He's I don't feel like I need to take anything else out of the deck, but I need a little bit more versatility against Eldrazi, so I'm just going to add them into the deck.
Yeah, when your deck is full one-ofs, consistency isn't really, that's not really your game plan. So having extra cards in your deck when you don't really care, you're not running just a bunch of 4-ofs, is probably fine. I don't see how there's a big difference. Like, so now my random chance of drawing, like the cards he wants to draw every game, just based on the numbers here, are Birds of Paradise. There's 4.
Yep.
There's 3 Resto Angels, so I'm assuming he wants at least one of those. 3 Voice, 3 Wall of Women's, 3 Wall of Roots. Everything else is, more or less a chord target.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of 1-ofs, there's a couple 2s. Like Eternal Witness is a great chord target. It's fun to just draw as well.
Mm-hmm.
But stuff like, Revel Arc or Cassali Pride Major or Zub Pontiff, I don't really want those cards in my deck, except for in very specific situations. So they're actually just chord targets.
Yeah.
So this deck takes advantage of that and just plays 62 cards. It just doesn't care. That's really interesting. I didn't expect that, but I
think he's probably one of the only players that can get away with it too.
Yeah, it's really hard to do that. I think the last situation where I saw someone do this was actually I was listening to Patrick Chapin's podcast, which is great. You should listen to it. But they were talking about I think Ben Rubin played 63 cards or something in a Blue Absent deck.
Okay.
And it was pretty much just, I want to play these Stubborn Owls, but I don't want to change my deck. They talked about it a lot, and there were a lot of really interesting things, but there are definitely times when you can do it. And I guess this is just one of those times. Like, he's allowed to do it. He's a great deck builder, and he's played this deck so much. He knows it better than anyone.
Yeah.
So, I think
I think if you're going to pick up the deck, don't go and just go off of Jess Hoogland's list. Because I was like, if you're going, like, if you're at home and sitting here, I'm going to play the Kiki Court deck. Don't just go and copy Jeff's list.
Yeah.
Card for card, because you probably are not going to have the same success. It's the fact that he knows the list and has been piloting it for quite some time and knows the interactions in the matchups is how he can get away with having a few extra cards in there than other people could.
Yeah, I would definitely drop a couple cards. I think Lone Missionary is one of them. I just don't think I'd play that. I don't know why it's here. I honestly just don't. Do you know why it's here? Like, it's good versus Burn, but okay.
Good versus Burn. I think he also liked having it against the Eldrazi list too.
Oh, really? Just gain 4?
Yeah, just to helping him out, stay alive in there, and some of the other aggro decks like Affinity.
Right.
Just
okay.
I feel like maybe he needed that extra life to help him delay until he can get up to something that he needs.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, because Lone Missionary is kind of only popular in Pauper.
Yeah.
Is 2 mana 2/1, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. So not really a card we'd look at as a modern card usually. I think it's probably a fun sideboard card for Burn. But most of those decks want to play like 3 mana. If they have more creatures, make 3/3/3s. If they have more life, gain 5. Timely Reinforcements. There we go. I think Timely Reinforcements is generally better, but if you want to, he's a Court of Klein deck, so it's a creature, which I think is why he's doing this instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just generally don't see this too much. It's cool though. I guess. I didn't expect it.
I mean, he is number 1 in the point standings right now. So
yeah, mostly off his modern. He just top 8s all the modern.
Yeah.
Opens. I think the last 3 he's top 8'd. That's a pretty good standard. That's pretty good. Like, that's very consistent. And with a deck that's not really entirely meta either.
No.
I'm impressed.
All right, so that was Louisville right now. There is an open taking place right now. It is Legacy currently. Yeah. So there will be some more modern deck lists to discuss later for our next event that we'll go over. But there was also states that took place during the Pro Tour weekend. And a lot of the decks were what we'd expect. There was some Eldrazi lists running around that placed top 8 at certain states. But there was 2 decks that I wanted to talk about that were just kind of stood out for me as interesting decks. One of which was the Naya Allies, which I think we've talked about previously.
Yeah, I think a little bit. This deck looks different, though, mainly because I don't recognize all these cards.
So basically, a lot of them are the original Zendikar Allies.
Yeah.
and then it's got some of the newer guys in there, like Lantern Scout's going to be in there.
Fire Mantle Mage.
Fire Mantle, because Menace is sweet to give all your guys Menace.
Yep.
You've got your Battle Stinger in there, giving your guys +1 until the end of the turn. So it's, there's basically, you're just saying, here's all my triggers. The Free Blade there, he gets counters on himself, +1/+1 counters. Now, this list is not running Vile, but I've seen lists that run Vile with it because, you have all these 1/2 costing things.
So 32 creature deck.
It's a 32 creature. I like. You could probably get away with Vile. You would have to shave down on some of your creatures to do that.
Right.
Because the spells it runs 4 Path, 4 Collected. Like, Collected is definitely correct. I think Path is perfect for the meta right now.
Yeah, it's pretty necessary.
So, but really, it's just, I'm going to play this ally. I'm going to trigger and get all this stuff to happen. Rally triggers, like gaining lifelink, getting protection of colors, getting +1 counters on them. Like, it's a cool creature-based deck that's not something that you're going to see very often. You don't really need to run that many lands. Some of the lands are expensive, though, with Cavern.
Right.
But
you get your ally encampments.
Yeah, ally encampments in there. It's really a relatively cheap deck, though.
Yeah, the mana base isn't too bad other than the caverns, which there are 4 here. Yep. Which, how much are those now? I don't even know, man.
Oh,
like
let's see.
$55. $55. All right.
$55.
Pretty good. Yeah. So it's not the cheapest then. Like, you could just not play Cavern of Souls, and that just cuts like $220 out of your budget. I think without the caverns, it is pretty budget.
Mm-hmm.
The caverns are really good though. If you have them, run them. Yeah. I think the main thing about this deck is it's very much leaning on the power of Collected Company.
Yes. Well, and it's like, I think with Violet it makes it better though.
You want Violet and Collected Company?
I do.
That's fair.
Because that you get your triggers, because it's end of the battlefield triggers, not whenever you cast them. So it's like, so being able to Vile things out quicker, getting more triggers quicker, I think it just speeds you up a little bit more.
Right.
Because you're not, like, there's the highest converted mana cost you have is 3. And that is your Mantle,
Lantern
Scout, and Evangel. So
yeah,
everything else is 2 or 1. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it gives you stuff to do before you get to that 4 mana of Collected Company.
I mean, before that, you're casting the creatures.
Yeah, but this way you can get like 2 creatures per turn instead of the 1, and then turn 4 you get like 4 triggers at once. So some crazy stuff going off for all your rallies that you've gotten.
It's also worth noting, like, you can do some janky stuff like at instant speed.
Yeah. Yep.
Like just like a Coon Battle Slinger, just pump your guys at instant speed, or wow, Expedition Envoy, really? Just white for a 2/1 ally. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What else has instant speed? Oh, here's a good one. The Evangel. So it's a 4 of. Whenever
color.
Kabira Evangel, all right, or another ally. So rally. And you may choose a color. If you do, allies you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. So that can jank up combat real good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I want to violate. Like that specifically, I think is the best one here.
Yeah.
Lantern Scout's good. I think that's the lifelink one. Yeah, lifelink. So that's pretty nice too. So you can jank up with combat pretty well with this deck, and maybe vials are just good in that way as well. Like you get to be faster, and you also just get to do weird stuff on your opponent's turn and in combat. So yeah, I think vials could be really good in this deck. Well, I guess it's kind of hard to ask what you would cut because neither of us have played this deck.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say. I think you'd have to test a bunch and then figure out what the worst cards are. Probably Expedition Envoy.
Well, that's what I was thinking. At least 1 or 2 of them would probably be stripped away. I don't know. But it's a cool deck. Like, if you sit here and you've played a lot of the Battle for Zendikar or something like that, and you've gotten some of these allies, maybe look into the price of the other ones, because a lot of them are commons. or uncommons
Yeah, these are
for the other allies. So
yours, Harabiz Druid. It's 2 mana for an 0/1 tap at X mana of any one color. 2 mana pool or X number of allies you control. All right, that's a lot of mana.
Yeah, that's a lot of mana. I guess like it helps you cheat out your collected earlier.
Yeah.
But then again, if I'm running vials, you might not need them.
Yeah, I think that's actually probably the most likely cut then. Just because if you're vialing, you're kind of cheating on mana anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't really know that this does a lot. This is a 20 land deck, but it's not like super heavy on fetch lands. It's got an Arid Mesa and 4 Runeslipe Heaths.
Yeah.
So, everything else is actually a mana producing land.
But I mean, you can adjust it too, like if you don't have the caverns and run more fetches and.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Things like that, guys. So, but yeah, just a fun, interesting deck that you could play. Got 6 at regionals for the state that it was in, so I figured it'd be a good time. If you play in FNMs for Modern or playing on Modern during your week, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna play a heavy creature based deck and see how it does. You might surprise people that are not used to this super aggro style. So,
Yeah, I think it's a cool choice.
Yeah.
Definitely something to try. So there's the other deck, which I am all about this. This is called Pure Steel Paladin. So Pure Steel Paladin, the namesake, we'll just read it out. It's white for a 2/2. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And equipment you control have equip cost of 0, as long as you have 3 or more artifacts. So Metalcraft, equip 0.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's actually just Metalcraft right there. I just missed it. So this is actually a little story we have. I had a red-white Gisela deck that was just equipment-based. This was by far the best card.
Yeah.
You just never mulligan with Pure Steel. You're just like, no, I'm keeping. I don't care what else.
Doesn't matter what else.
Scared of these other stuff in different lands. So it was a really sweet card, and I love that it's played in Modern, at least a little bit.
So the other creatures it's got, 4 Spellskite.
Yep.
Because Spellskite's awesome. Trinket Mage is in there. Help you get some of your artifacts onto the, search for artifact with converted mana cost 1 or less, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Cool. And then you've got Stonehaven Outfitter, our newest addition from Oath of the Gatewatch. It says, equip creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. 2 mana for a 2/2, 1 colorless, and a white to be able to play him.
Picks up artifact or equipment quite well.
Yeah, works very well in that regard. And so we've got a nice variety of equipments. Basilisk collar in there for. You'll notice that a lot of the equipments are like very cheap to play on the battlefield, but if you have your paladin, they cost 0 to equip. So.
Which is really busted. So I just figured out why Hanger Backwalker's in this deck. When you cast Trinket Mage, you can get a creature if you need to.
That's true.
I was really confused. I'm like, why is there one Hanger Backwalker in this deck? I don't get it. Like I like the thought there's can like pick up equipment and stuff, which is cool, but it feels a little out of place. Like it's kind of slow, but then I really Trinket Mage.
All right, boom. Here's my Hanger Back.
I like that.
Yeah, so like it does run Batterskull in there, because
if equip cost is 0 for Batterskull, that is a very powerful card.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Flare Husk in there, 1 mana living weapon, cool. Lightning Greaves, Mortar Bond.
I guess Trinket Mage can just get Flare Husk. Okay, I don't know why Hanger Back's here. I think it's just if you want a bunch of little things that can pick up equipment.
Yeah.
Then you can search for it. It seems fine. It's makes your Trinket Mage more versatile. So.
Right. Paradise Mantle, Sword of Fire and Ice, Life Staff in here. Basically, all the equipments that you can think about, it's running. Then it's running.
Scholar.
Yeah, it's
running.
Death
Touch Lifelink. It's actually really good with Viridian Longbow. Ooh. So. Death Touch pinging.
1 damage target creature or player, and then you have Collar, so it's got Death Touch and Lifelink. So pretty nice.
Game running, that thing dies.
Yes.
There's a friend of mine has a Niv Mizzet commander deck. Basilisk Color is just so degenerate.
Gross.
It's so bad.
So So it runs 4 Steel Shaper's gifts, so you can search for equipments in case you didn't get your Trinket Mage or anything like that.
Yeah.
Runs the Moxes in there. It also runs Aether Grid, so like for whatever reason all those equipments are there. Your creatures have died. Now you can just start dealing damage.
Yeah, I guess you don't. Well, you don't actually tap the equipment when you attack.
Oh, that's true.
Right, so it just remains untapped anyway. So you can just tap all your equipment while they're on your creatures and ping stuff. This deck's sweet, man. Do I own all these cards?
So land-based Academy Runes in there in case anything dies. It's got Moorland Haunt.
Whoa. Ink Moth?
A 1 of Ink Moth.
Yeah.
1 of Ink Moth. In case you're like, I'm going to just infect them now. And 1 of Moorland. I mean, you only run 15 creatures, but you exile a creature from your graveyard and you put a 1/1 white spirit creature token flying on the battlefield. So, hey, a bunch of your creatures have died. I've got all these equipments. Now I can just pay 1 and get a spirit. Cool. Now I can start equipping my Sword of Fire and Ice and all this stuff on there.
I have nightmares of Moorland Haunt tokens with freaking... what's that equipment that gets +X+0 for each instant or sorcery in your graveyard?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Runechanter's Pike?
That, yes.
Oh, this is the worst. Yeah. That Delver deck. Don't make me do it again.
Don't
make me play that matchup ever.
But really, like, this is a relatively cheap deck as well.
Yep. I love the Academy runes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you killed my equipment? Nope. It's back.
The expensive things, really, the opals.
Yeah, I don't think you need them.
No, I think it helps.
Yeah, they're good
for your metalcraft for like your paladin. But like it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. I guess. How much is Batterskull now? I bet it's dropped a lot.
Let's see.
Still $20. Okay. The GP promo is 15.
There you go. Buy the promo, guys.
Buy the promo, guys. The art's really weird, but it's $5 cheaper.
$5 cheaper.
I guess the other expensive card here is the Sword of Fire and Ice, which is definitely a pricey one. I think they're like $50. Yep, wow. 55.
Or you.
Oof.
Okay, hold on. The original is 55, the Darksteel one, but if you go for the Modern Masters edition, it's 57.
More. Yeah. I don't know why.
People like their art.
I guess I like the old one better. I don't like the new one.
I don't know. So this is another fun deck. You could probably pull this one together too.
Yeah, this is pretty cheap.
Like so just other ways to help mess with people that you're playing against, guys. Play some fun decks that are not so cookie cutter.
Yeah, this is a really cool one. I would definitely play this if I had everything, which I guess I have most of it, but I would need some Pure Steel Paladins. I only have 1.
How much of those aren't? I feel like they're super cheap.
Yeah, they're not like super cheap, but they're not expensive.
Okay, $5.
Yeah, Trinket Mage. I think it was printed at common at one point, so it's pretty cheap. And yeah, most of this equipment is pretty cheap. Like I guess Basilisk Color is a couple dollars. Yeah, like 8, but
yeah, because it's also used in Commander and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of this is just $8 cards, $5 cards, which for Modern right now is apparently budget.
Yeah.
Definitely a budget. So, and they're all one-ofs, which is nice. You're not like trying to get a set or anything.
Right.
It's not like you need a set of Sword of Fire and Ice. You just need 1. Or you don't even need it. Like you can just play a different sword.
Yeah.
Like, Feast and Famine's great too. That's a great card. Just play that. That's fine. It's like $30 cheaper.
Boom.
Boom.
So those are the 2 decks that I wanted to show off, at least for you guys to be able to see some different varieties of it. We have some upcoming GPs. Just quick, there's a couple in March coming up. One in Italy, one in Australia, one in Detroit. And the one in Detroit, the one in Detroit is what a lot of pros are like. I'm not going to anymore. Modern, stupid, this, that, and the other thing.
I mean, why don't they just go play Eldrazi?
Well, that's that. I
think they just don't want to. Like, they'd rather play something else.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I've seen like a downside to the having all the GPs on a single weekend be the same format. Is if you don't want to play Modern right now, which is fair, like I this isn't my favorite iteration of Modern. In fact, it's probably my least.
I think a lot of people can.
Yeah, there's a bit of an issue, and I want it fixed. And we'll get there. Mm-hmm. But for now, it's probably not my favorite format. I'd rather play Standard or like Sealed or something in my GPs.
Yeah.
So having them all be Modern is kind of weird. I guess the other one is in Italy and Australia, so it's either you're going to Detroit. If you're an American or a North American player, you're going to Detroit or you're not going to one probably.
Yeah.
So I guess it doesn't really matter here.
So April, the new set comes out.
Yep.
We're going back to Innistrad, and it also means a new ban list.
Yes. What? This is a surprise. So does Eldrazi need a ban? Yes.
Yes.
We can all agree. Like
I don't think there's anybody out there that says this deck is completely fair and not warping the format.
Yeah, it clearly is.
Like, yeah, even the people that are playing it are like, yeah, I'm just gonna play it for the last month, and then that was fun.
Well, if you want to win, you have to. Like, it's just the only reasonable deck to play if your only goal is to win the tournament.
Right.
So I think it's to warp a format to that point says to me, yes, it's unhealthy and it needs to be banned.
So, did you think that there should have been an emergency ban?
No, I don't think that's like an option until you literally can't play any other deck, and it's like. So I guess how I said earlier was what I liked. If everyone's just winning on like turn one or turn two, and you have to main deck something like Leyline of Sanctity just to have any chance to win, then you emergency ban. Like the format's just not playable at that point.
Yeah.
If you need to have a full set of the Leyline, and you're not even playing white, like it's just not a playable format anymore, and you're just mulliganing for it. Like, then we emergency ban. This is still Magic. It's weird, janky Magic, but it's still
it's like there are other decks trying.
Yeah.
But it is a very degenerate format currently, and waiting an extra month, like March is going to be a tough month because you're going to see. I feel like the attendance for Detroit is probably going to be lower than any other Modern event has been.
Yeah.
And that might factor into it, but like waiting until April is not going to be that big a deal for a lot of people. I'm still going to be playing every week at my local event. I'm going to DC for the Team Sealed, and I'm probably going to go 1-3 drop and then go play Modern side events.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's really what my plan is for the GP.
Team O2 drop?
Yeah. So
this is my new team because I just do this at every PTQ. Like all of them, just O2 drop.
Yeah.
It feels bad. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, so bannings.
Yeah, I guess I'll go first. I think that Iovugan should be banned.
Okay.
And my reason here is there are turns where that single card can make like 8 mana, which is just too much.
All right, so explain it out. How is it making 8 mana?
So you're just casting multiple spells. It makes each individual spell you cast 2 mana less. So this is a potential turn 1 play is Iovugan, and then you play 4 Eldrazi Mimics and 2 Endless Ones on 2, and have no cards in hand, and you have 6 creatures in play. That's obviously that doesn't happen. That's like a crazy nut draw or something. But it is pretty reasonable to see something like Mimic go. Right. And then turn 2, you play your Eldrazi Temple, play a Thought-Knot Seer, take their best card, and hit them for 8. And then turn 3, you can play Reality Smash and they're dead. That's a reasonable thing. Like I've seen this happen. So, that to me is kind of crazy. I think so. The other one that is possible would be Eldrazi Temple, which is also good. But Eldrazi Temple makes 2 mana and only ever 2 mana.
True.
Which I don't know if it's too good if it's doing that. I've just seen do things that are too broken.
But in the situation that you described of being able to cast a Thought Knot, they had to have a temple as well.
Right, or they could have like I guess an Urborg doesn't work.
No. So again, like I personally feel that temple needs to be what gets banned because
temple's better, yeah.
Like We don't have Ancient Tomb. We don't have any 2-mana producers except Eldrazi Temple. And it didn't matter until Battle for Zendikar. And Gatewatch. And then with having these new Eldrazi that were lower cost and insanely good, Eldrazi became something that you could use a temple with. Like, is annoying being able to go, all right, here's my Mimics for free, and here's my Endless one on turn 1. Here's a 2/2, essentially, without having to tap anything. But being that it's legendary, you're only ever going to get that 2 out of it. It only gets really crazy when Eldrazi Temple is combined with it, I feel. So I think if we get rid of the Temple... So I think we can keep the eye still in there, because Tron players still use it and it helps them out. I don't think
Tron was... So actually the other half of why I actually want eye is because Tron just got an insane card in Kozilek's Return, which probably is just too good. Like, when you look at it for some matchups, Tron just, if they play 4 of those main, say we go to a point where the Eldrazi deck is completely unplayable and it's not, like, all those cards are just never played ever again. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen after the ban. I'm just, like, a hypothetical here.
Yeah.
The thought was that Tron was going to be the best deck.
Right.
So
do you think both should get banned?
Well, I just don't think Eldrazi Temple needs to be banned. I think just Eye is what I was thinking.
All right.
But, so Tron was going to be the best, and then they printed a new good card for it. So I don't mind banning something out of Tron. Which is the other half of why I think Eye Vugan's maybe a little bit better. Like, if you do want to ban something out of Tron, Eye Vugan is a great ban, because one of the ways to beat them, if they don't have Eye, is just to discard all their big threats.
True.
So
and not being able to cast their Ulamog for 8 mana is also a big deal.
That as well. I think they can probably cast it already anyway. Like, they'll get there eventually. But when they draw Expedition Map, and that actually means they just drew like 5 extra cards, that's a really tough way to lose when you're on the other end. So I think, like, banning Eye from Tron isn't something that I'm not worried about. And I do think it's better in Eldrazi. I am definitely open to changing my mind here. I do think Eldrazi Temple is very good as well. Maybe it does need to be both. I don't know. Like, it could.
it could. And the only reason why I feel that Temple should get banned over Eye is the fact that you can sit here, like, Temple's not legendary, so you can be like, all right, I have now 3 Temples out.
2 Temples, 3 Temples.
Yeah, 2 Temples even, and that's 4 mana right there with 2 lands.
That's a lot of mana. I agree. That is pretty ridiculous.
That's my only thing thinking that Temple needs over Eye. I was like, all right, yes, you reduce it by 2, but then if you have another Eye in hand, or you're short on lands or something like that, all you need is 1 Temple, and Eye just becomes insane.
Yeah, I mean that's
I just feel like the Temple is always attached to Eye in some way. That when people are describing these crazy plays where they're like, here's all these Mimics, next turn Temple into Thought Knot Seer, and like, the insane plays always involves them having Temple to make the play insane. So
let's think about it then. So you go turn 1 Eye, Mimic. Turn 2 you play a Plains and you play your Displacer.
Yeah. Turn
3 you do the Thought Knot Seer. So turn 2 you've hit for 6. Turn 3 you have 2 4/4s and a 3/3 that can attack. So you're hitting for 11. That's 17 points of damage on turn 3. And then turn 4 you play, whatever else. It doesn't actually matter at that point. That's still really broken.
That is still really strong.
You can do most of that with the Temple. You just can't do quite all of it, because you can't get the second Mimic in play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think they're really close.
Yeah.
Like, you've convinced me that it's not as cut and dry as I thought it was. But I think it's still really close.
Well, and then it's all but you made the good point about, like, factoring for Tron. Like, once a banning happens and Eldrazi is no longer the end all be all for Modern,
the only playable deck.
Yeah, are we going to see the rise up of Tron again, and then
that was kind of what I thought was going to happen. Like, I think Tron just got pushed out by Eldrazi so hard, and like all these aggro decks to beat the Eldrazi deck.
Yeah.
So they just didn't get to have their time, and when I first saw Kozilek's return, I was like, wow, they just really screwed up.
They really want Tron to be a thing, guys.
They screwed up, guys. Like, they're just gonna put 4 of these in every red green Tron deck, and we're gonna die. So, I'm worried about Tron.
Even the first week that we had after the banning, before the Pro Tour, we did see some Tron up there, but there was a variety too. Like, we had Affinity, we had Scapeshift, we had Jund. Like, I think even Infect Player was up there. Like, there was 2. I remember there was 2 Tron lists, but like it was still a variety at that point. So
I think my problem with Kozilek's return is that, like, what's Tron's really just worse matchups? Stuff like Infect, Burn, and that's the matchup. Like, that's a matchup where Kozilek's return is good. Like, Infect, you just get them sometimes. Like, activate my Inkmoth, sure.
I mean, Pyroclasm alone is good enough.
Yeah,
like
Pyroclasm was already really good. Now it's at instant speed, so it can get your lands too.
Yeah.
Oof, that's some spicy meatballs right there. So, that's really why it kind of worries me. Because it doesn't matter in Tron's good matchups. Like, versus a slower deck, you don't really care about the Kozilek's return. You probably just board them out.
Yeah.
Those faster decks where you want that Pyroclasm anyway, a turn later sucks, but a turn later lets you do it at instant speed. Probably really good. So, yeah, I'm not worried about banning something from Tron. If it is just Eldrazi Temple that gets banned, I think it probably takes the Eldrazi deck down enough so that we're playing Modern again and not just the Eldrazi format.
Yeah,
which I want, because Modern's great. So I think there's a lot of options that Wizards has.
Okay. But basically, we're in agreement that it's probably going to be one of the lands.
I think it has to be one of the lands.
Yeah,
they're the broken things, right?
Yeah,
the creatures themselves. Like, you look at Endless One, is not a broken card. It's not a good card. You wouldn't play X for an XX in Standard. Like, it's just not even a card that makes a cut. So the fact that you're playing 4 in Modern means that you just have so much mana, you want to make something with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the lands that are the issue here. Don't get me wrong, Reality Smash is a great card. Like, Tron just might play it. And Thought Knot's here too. Like, they could just put them in their deck.
They could.
So I think they have some options, and they're going to have to work out what that is. I think the other thing that could come with bans is unbans. Is there anything that you'd like to see unbanned? Or that specifically would help here. Like, maybe instead of banning Eldrazi Temple, which, they just unban something. I think that's the wrong choice, but, maybe you have some crazy idea that I don't have.
No, there's nothing... as like some people have talked about, like bringing back like Ancestral,
right?
I'm
pretty down for that.
Things like that. Like, I don't feel like Ancestral is so ridiculous right now that it would.
I don't think it would help the problem.
I don't think it'll have a factor. I think it would be interesting to see what would come of adding Ancestral into there.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, I don't see anything that I'm like, I really think we should have that in there. Like, for a little bit, I was like, okay, maybe Stormforge, but being able to put a Batterskull into play on turn 3, I don't think I really want that.
No, if you unban, if you unban what's it called, Stoneforge, you have to ban Batterskull.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, does having Stoneforge in the format do anything good for it? Not really.
No.
There's nothing specifically that I want to have it in the format for. So I just don't... I don't want it unbanned. I think when everyone was talking about that, they got a little... People read too much into what Wizard says.
Yes.
Like, someone says something on Twitter, and it's like, oh, okay, this is happening for sure.
Nope, it's not.
That's not really how it works. Like, saying that they want to play your Batterskulls with your Stoneforge Mystics could just mean that they're both in Legacy decks. That's a defined thing in Legacy. It's been going on for a while, so it doesn't mean unbanned in Modern. I think that would be too good.
Yeah.
Maybe what was the card? They said they're not unbanning Jace, which fine, whatever.
Okay.
I think Jace would be fine in this format, by the way. Like, you just need to unban ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I think you can unban Jason Bloodbraid and like some other cool stuff.
I don't know.
You don't want to be in that world?
I don't want to be in that world. Like, Bloodbraid, I don't want that Jund again. I don't.
I think the problem with that Jund is with Deathrite Shaman, though.
True.
It wasn't even so much Bloodbraid.
That's true.
Bloodbraid's really good. Like, yeah. And I think it will be unbanned at some point. I don't think it's going to be the next BNR. I think it's going to be like 2 or 3 down the road or whatever.
Okay.
Maybe at some point, you know, they print enough cards that the power level or the comparative power level of Bloodbraid to the rest of the format isn't so high, and then you can unbind it because it's a cool card. Like, yeah, Cascade's a sweet mechanic. We want to use it.
That's true. I was like, we don't see very much cascading at all anymore.
Yeah, like what are the good Cascade cards that are legal now? I guess there's just the Living Death card or Living End. Living End isn't itself Cascade, but the cards that cascade into it.
Right. As like, and then you have like the what's that fringe restore balance deck?
Oh yeah.
That's the other one that uses Cascade.
Yeah, they have Cascade as well.
So,
I think one issue with unbanning Bloodbraid is you probably can't unban Ancestral as well, because that is a little bit strong. Yeah. Like, there's a rug deck that I'm sure could pop up with 4 Bloodbraids, 4 of that.
Ew.
And playing a 3/2 haste for 4 mana and drawing 3 cards
must be nice.
That's a little too much. That is an interaction you see in Legacy, though. Those bug decks have the 3 mana 2/2 with Cascade, and just a bunch of hits. So it is a cool interaction. I think it's probably just too good for Modern.
Yeah. Which
is sad.
Cool. So that's like nothing that's really jumping out that we think that's going to be unbanned right away.
Yeah.
Something's going to get banned from Eldrazi.
Yep.
More than likely, it's going to be one of or both the lands.
I think do you think it'll be both? I think it'll just be one of them.
I don't know. They could. Okay, so it depends on how much they take into account the Modern community.
Right.
Because if it was up to the Modern community, they don't want to see any more Eldrazi ever again.
Oh yeah, I'm so done. This is a dark age for Modern.
Yeah. So like in that regard, and they're like, if they're paying attention to that, then they might just go over the top and say both of them. But I feel like they're probably gonna pick one. Maybe they'll ban something else from the deck, or I don't know, do something, or maybe they'll put something on restriction or something. Who knows?
That would be interesting. They just restrict like Ivugan or something.
Yeah, that'd
be a little weird.
Yeah. So who knows what's what they'll be in place, but it'll come out in April, basically around the time we're going to be having our new set come out. So
yeah, I thought is it April, like early April?
Yeah,
I thought it was end of March for some reason.
Well, it could be like just that end period there. When is let me see.
I can't remember when the new set's coming out, but I think I think BNR it's effective when the new set comes out, and it's announced a week before.
April 4th is the next one.
Okay, is the next BNR?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's like.
And let's see, when is
the set release? I feel like it's the Monday after pre-release, usually. I think that's right.
That sounds about right.
That's how it feels. Yeah, okay. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see April 4th. See what happens.
Yeah, so
is that when it's effective or announced?
Announcement is the 4th, which let's see.
Which is a Friday. No, that's March 4th.
Yeah. April
4th is a Monday.
No, it's a Wednesday.
April 4th?
Yeah.
No, it's Monday.
Oh, that's May. Oops.
There you go.
I went too far. I just was scrolling through my calendar. All right.
So Monday after pre-release. Confirmed. We did it. We remembered. Go us.
We did good. So we'll have another show in March. Probably near the end of the month, right before the ban list and everything, to kind of talk about how Modern has continued to be a degenerate format and stuff like that. Now, I don't know. We'll see if there's any other cool stuff that we can talk about for next month, because this is a monthly event that we do for In Response to. So anything else that you wanted to discuss before we call it a day?
No, I think we're good, man. I think this is some good topics.
Good stuff. All right, so why don't you give some shout-outs and say where people can find you and what projects you're working on, all that kind of good stuff.
So I haven't been able to make draft videos for a little while. I would like to start doing that again. I think I actually will be able to. There's kind of like an issue with I didn't have any tickets. I didn't want to go buy any, so...
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that happens again. I think definitely by the time Cube comes out, next time Cube comes out, I'm definitely going to draft a bunch and make some videos. I also think I might start doing some Pauper, which is it's a cool format. So if you want to check that stuff out, the easiest way is definitely just to follow me on Twitter. It's at Mutarn. I think it's usually up on the YouTube thing.
It's up right below your Lotless Troll.
Sweet. Oh yeah, Lotless Troll. Lotless Troll is the best, by the way. Just that's a fact right there. Best card ever.
There you go.
So yeah, you can follow me there. You can also follow me on YouTube or sub on YouTube, I guess. It's Mutarn TV, because yep, you gotta add TV because then it's like it's official sounding, you know.
Of course.
I think that's how it works, right?
Yeah. I don't have TV on any of my stuff, so
no.
I guess I'm not official enough.
Yeah, but you're the real man. True. So. Like, people know.
People know. I'm not the fake
official. One. I just, like, what if there's some other guy? There actually is. There's, really? Like, I used to check, just because it was a very unique name. I'd never met any or seen that before. So there was one on WoW, which is where I got the name originally. So I would just go check, and I would search for that name to see if anyone else had picked up on it. And there was one other guy, had like a level 3 monk or something.
Nice.
So I don't know if it really counts.
Cool. So for those that are interested, I've been putting up a lot more Magic content.
Yeah, you filthy degenerate.
Right? So Brandon's referring to the fact that I just posted up a lovely how-to tutorial video for all of you guys out there who want to
be awful people
and make your opponents cringe when you're playing them. Really, it's how to whiteboarder your cards.
So wrong.
It's so wrong, and it's so great with everybody's reaction to it.
Yeah.
So I did some videos like that. I'm also doing coverage now for my Modern tournament at my local shop, and that's every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We go live on Twitch, which will be right here, The Real Nan Man, and then VODs from that go up on YouTube, usually about Wednesday of that week. Which is youtube.com/nanman, which is also where VODs from In Response to are kept. So, a lot more Magic content
value
been coming out there, guys. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. Check our Twitters. That's the best place to find out what sort of projects we're working on and what events that we're attending. So yeah, I'll be actually at GP DC, which is March 11th that weekend. I guess 12th and 13th is when the actual GP is taking place. So I'll be there, losing in Sealed and then playing Modern side events. So you can come and hang out and lose in Sealed and hang and play.
Get all your In Response to paraphernalia.
Oh yes, we got. What was that card that you were supposed to sign at the GP?
Siege Mastodon? Nobody came up and asked for one. I don't know, man.
Slackers.
Look, man, 5-mana 3/5 was actually good in that format. Which is bad. That's not good.
Turtle.
That was in 14, right?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So many people have such negative memories of that set, but I actually liked it. There were so many cool archetypes you could draft. Like, there's that Red Black Sack deck.
Yeah.
There's the deck where you'd play the enchantment where all your opponent's creatures are spirits, and then you get that enchantment that lets you pay 2 mana to give a creature flying, so you just shoot all their creatures.
Yep.
Man, there was so many cool archetypes. I think the problem is it was just too damn slow, and that mono blue deck was way too good.
Yeah.
Good times though. That was
good times, guys. Good times.
I'd draft some more M14.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching. We appreciate you guys checking us out here. Again, show your support by hitting the follows and checking out all of the other stuff that we're working on. But thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
All right. Peace.